Greetings, Dan Palmer here. I welcome you to the Making Permaculture Stronger website, and particularly this contents page. And aside from all the text below, I thought I'd give you a heads up on the main kind of types of content you can find here. So if there's something that appeals, you can dip right on into it. Probably the most engaged with aspect currently is the podcast. So at the moment there's an episode weekly, and I'm interviewing a lot of interesting guests. It's non-random, so there's a coherent theme. We're exploring certain topics and going deeper and having the same guests back again to ask questions. I'm also doing some experiments where I work with existing permaculture designers to host a conversation where I support them to deepen and evolve their practice. So that may be of interest to some of you. A lot of this project has been about written content, so I've written hundreds of blog posts that have formed coherent inquiries, falling so far into two phases. The first phase made up of two inquiries. The first inquiry was looking at the idea of is permaculture design a process of assembling parts into wholes, or differentiating wholes into parts, or some kind of combination? Or it was just looking at these questions of how do we think about wholes and parts, and have we unwittingly approached permaculture design in a mechanistic, mechanical way. The second inquiry looked at the distinction between designing and implementing, this idea that we often think we need to finish a detailed design and then implement it, and some issues with that and how that doesn't harmonise at all with how the rest of life works. So I explored some alternative ways of thinking about and practicing that stuff. That led us to the end of phase one, which brought those two first inquiries together in this chart, which explored 9 different spaces in which the design process can sit, culminating in what I call generative transformation. So a lot of this stuff, it's kind of like going into ideas and asking questions, and then showing that if we can become more conscious of the ideas and assumptions we're working from, we can find our way back to practice, that these ideas can make a real useful practical difference and increase the beauty and power in life and adaptiveness and harmony of the design and creation work we're doing. Now, the start of phase 2, which is the current phase of the project, I developed this metaphor, or this idea of thinking of permaculture as like a tree, where the roots were the foundational underlying understandings, the trunk was like the design process that gets us to the branches, twigs and leaves, which are the patterns, strategies and techniques that we arrive at in terms of site-specific solutions on the ground. And at the start of phase 2, I chopped the tree down, coppiced it at ground level, let the whole thing fall over, based on my understanding and my belief that what have become permaculture's kind of core design process understandings aren't really appropriate for permaculture. They've been brought in from outside, and they don't really do permaculture justice or support it to express its and develop its potential in the world, realise its potential in the world. And so I cut it down, and the idea is to support, nourish, resource and invite the regrowth of fresh shoots to grow up from the copper stump, where there's going to be multiple shoots, and I'm exploring 3 of them that I'm aware of. One of them is I call living design process, which is something I've been developing, drawing on the work of Christopher Alexander, the radical architect. Another one is the living systems thinking approach, and within that the 7 first principles of regeneration, developed by Carol Sanford and the group of colleagues that make up the regenerative design and development group called Regenesis. So we've been going into that pretty deep. And a third regrowth contender is the field process model of Sonja Horster and Yasha Rohr over in Germany, which I've dipped into in the past and look forward to exploring more and welcoming any other approaches to the table. So that gives you a feel for what you'll find if you go back through the written content and some of the things we'll explore moving forward. Yeah, that's maybe all I'll say for now. Thanks so much for visiting. There's different ways you can get involved and support the project if you so desire, and enjoy. Hope there's something here of value for you. Bye.